Hi, this is Laurie with To the Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have Niall. Hi, Niall.
Hi.
It's so awesome to see you. And, I want to take this time to thank you so much for being the co host for our To the Trade. You took this on really not knowing the commitment and time and effort that it takes.
My gosh,
And I
it's been
just
amazing.
love working with you. I think we've been a dream team. I really do.
Yeah, I've loved it too. It's been so much fun. I think I told you before, like I learned so much. So like I always have my trusty pad with me so I can take my notes.
And,
I've
and
learned
behind
I've
the scenes too, like advocating for the designers, coming up with lists, helping me figure out what shows work well, what the questions should look like. Like you do a
yeah.
lot of work to help me figure this out. And I love the heart you put into all of it because you really do care that the value is for the designer. I think that perspective, I do my best to figure that out, but you're looking at it through different eyes than I am. So it's just
But
such
I
a
think that's
wonderful.
what makes this, I honestly think that's what makes this a really good podcast because we both come at it from different, so it's weird. We both come at it from the same vantage point that we both truly care, but then our perspectives are different
Yeah.
because you always have this perspective. I was just saying this the other day, like when you were talking, when we were having that conversation over text about like certain things that you never see done. And I'm like, I was telling Billy, I'm like, here she goes again. I'm like, where does she come up with this stuff? I'm like, I just rolls off her head. And so, like that sort of thing where you are just always thinking with your marketing brain, I say. And then I'm always thinking with my like designer brain or more vulnerable, like, hey, we don't know this, but maybe we should share this. We should connect this way. And I think that sort of those two things coming together is what makes this so great, personally.
I think so
Just
too.
my
And
take.
you absolutely do have that heart. I mean, I will talk to people outside in the trade shows, even when you're not around, and I'll mention our work together, and they always tell me, I love Niall. He's so great. And I was like, so do I. He is so great. It's just that feeling that we both, I think, really seriously care and we really want the industry to be better. And we're working to make that happen. And this is a lot of work. I mean, a podcast, if you're out there thinking like I should start a podcast, I just want you to know it's a lot of work to do a
Yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah,
guest
yeah. I mean, and you
qualifying, the questions, the research, the recording, the editing, the marketing, then
and
doing it
you
all
are
over again.
literally like the machine behind it. I mean, honestly, I enjoy it because I show up and I get to play, if you will, and learn. But you like are the thing that keeps this machine going. So I have to take my hats off to you because it is a lot of work. I know it just from watching all the work that you do, and I'm tired and I'm not even really participating in all of that. And I'm like, Jesus. So yeah, you're right.
Well, we are
It's a lot of
a
work.
top 10 in design, not just interior design
Woohoo!
podcast. I mean, to come out of the gate like that, wow. I mean,
That's
I don't know how
amazing.
we did it.
That's pretty amazing,
And
actually.
I
That's
will run
pretty.
into people all the time, meetings. I've run into people at trade shows. I've run into people. They're like, I just listened to the podcast. I was just listening to the podcast. And I know they're telling the truth because they literally tell me, this is what happened to your last guest, or oh, I think you really should go there or whatever. So it's so fun to hear that it's meaningful to people. And we do try to make sure that we're offering the value. We're asking the questions that you as a listener want to hear.
I mean, and I've even gotten screenshots from people who aren't in our industry. Like I've gotten screenshots via text from people who aren't designers, who just were like, you know what, who have either hired designers or have worked with designers in the past, or who just maybe know me and were like, they found the podcast very interesting because they learned something about the process or how we work or how the industry works that they really didn't know. They had a preconceived notion. And so I didn't know that that would be a thing. Like I thought, the intention was for us to sort of help ourselves, right? But I think we are also sort of educating the customer, if you will, as well, too. So
I
it's
mean,
kind of
I think
cool.
we do try. I've had people who are potential design clients reach out to IDC numerous times with a question of like, how do I, they know I think the thing that they always ask is how can I be a good interior design client? and what does that take? And I will be honest and tell them what I think it really takes to, number one factor is trust, right? I mean, that
My
is
God, yes. Yep.
key. You can't go into any working relationship that intimate, that bespoke, without their trust layer being incredibly important. And it's hard to trust people with a significant part of your budget to build you something that's supposed to be so personal. And
Yep.
I have watched design clients just really mess up their projects and mess up the ability to work with really good talented people who want to do really good work because they can't get that around their head. They can't trust. They can't get there. And so, that's the advice I always give those people is please just it's a process and it's going to get a lot uglier before it gets beautiful. And so you have to be willing to go on the ride and you have to be willing to trust people.
That's
And
so true.
it's so hard. I
It's
know it's
so
hard,
true.
but it's
It's
worth
so
it
true.
in the end.
And that's why now, like I used to walk into situations and say, and I think I've talked about this before and say like, oh, it's going to be great. We're going to do this and it's going to be, we're going to braid each other's hair and we're going to like pick flowers. And now it's like I go and I'm like, there will be tears. There will be frustration. There might be wine drinking. Like I just, there's going to be all of this, but in the end, it's going to be great. But there's definitely going to be this, and this. You're going to deal with all of the things, because I don't want you to have this idea that we're going to just be picking roses every day,
Yes.
so
I mean, it's a lot like having a baby or something of that nature where there's going to be pain and there is going to be days you think you're making a mistake. And there are going to be days that you're like, I wonder, this is costing way too much money. There's going to be all of those feelings. And then you don't know how it's going to turn out. And you
Yep.
don't know are you going to love it? Are you not? Just like
Yeah.
your mom, that's like the same kind of stuff. And then you have this baby. And then a year later, you're like, oh my God, what if I didn't? Like, this is the best thing in the world?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so that is what a lot like what a design project is like. It's birthing something beautiful for you and your family. And I think we've done a lot of good work and I want to continue to do good work about advocating for designers. And that's across the board. I mean, you have probably, if you're listening, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but most of my day every day is talking to designers and manufacturers. Like every single day, I will have numerous conversations with designers and I will have numerous conversations with brands. And both conversations are all about helping. So I will help a brand I don't work with brands just like everyone else. I'm very much an advocate for designers when I work with a brand. I tell them what
Mhm,
designers want, what they need, how they should work with them, how they should what they should offer, how they should care, how they should build
mhm,
community, how they should talk to designers. In fact, a lot of what I'm talking about now to brands in 2026 is, and I'm going to talk a lot about it to designers, is like no trust being your number one priority in 2026. I need more people to like, know, and trust me because that is how you get clients. And the manufacturers are hurting just as much as designers sometimes. And so I think we really have all of the indicators say that interior design as an industry is going to grow in 2026 quite significantly. I would like to see designers get more market share generally. I would like to see designers paid more. I would like designers to be respected more in the design process. And I would like on the manufacturing side for manufacturers to care a lot more about design business education. I would like to see them invest in helping designers be better at marketing and helping them get more clients. And I would like them to invest in helping designer and really educating designers about how their products make a difference so that when they walk into that client's home, they can more confidently sell the materials and overcome objections and have the backing of the brands with which they work with. So
mhm.
it's a lot. I mean, it's not an easy task to take it on. And I think we're moving the needle, and it's a hard needle to move because it really has some significant structures. But I can tell you, I did see an ASID jobs report, and it says that now the national average salary for interior designers is in the 70s, which when I first, a few years ago, it was in the 40s.
Well, that's good. That's
That is a good
good.
improvement. I think designers are making a little bit more money. I mean, is that caught up in cost of living at wages? Cost of living increases? Probably. It still concerns me that even at 70, that is not a living wage in most of the area
No.
in which we design work is prevalent. So it's still very important to me and to our community that the wages are increased, the trust factor is increased with all collaborative partners, contractors, trades, brands, vendors, all of that, and clients. All of that has to be working together. And I have got an amazing group of collaborative partners in all areas of this industry that I've talked to ad nauseum about these these things. They are getting it. They are starting to care too. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we can do a lot of really good things in 2026. I'm really looking forward to what the changes will come. I mean, privately, I've got some secret things I'm working on that I think are going to be game changers.
Absolutely.
We're going to be announcing that soon. Can't really tell you too much about it, but expect invites to some cool things in 2026 for IDC. Um, I think we should be proud as an industry that we have
Yeah.
worked to solve some of these problems, and I hope that we continue to do that. I mean, there's going to be a big change in one of the things we need to be really keeping an eye on is cost of insurances. Some designers are relying on their insurance for their partners, but some have to pay that themselves directly. And if the Affordable Care Act does not have the subsidies don't extend out, which maybe they will, maybe they won't, we don't know yet, there could be a
Hmm.
big financial impact on designers. Some estimate that that could be as much as like $2,000 a month for designers to pay for in health insurance. And I know that that would be financially ruinous for so many working designers. So this is some of the stuff that we're thinking about on a daily basis so that we can
It's yeah. It's
figure
just
out the
it's
problem.
it's lunacy. I mean, my insurance, just for instance, is out of the it's I think I pay like $400. I'm close to $400 a month, but the co-pays are ridiculous. Like one, I think I got a letter a year ago saying, "Oh, your ER copay, like the ER copay was, I think when I first started like 50, and then it went to like 500, and they're like, it's now just half. You'll just pay half. So whatever the
You're
allowed
like, wait a
amount,
minute, I don't
yeah.
know
So
what that
and you
is.
no, and you don't, and that's the thing. Like you don't know what that is going to be because they can't
Like, what if
even
you need
give
to
you
get a
like
CT scan? What if
yeah,
you need an
you can't.
MRI? What if you need
Exactly. And yeah,
half?
it's an emergency visit, so you can't get like one of those little estimates where they'll send you in the mail like or an email saying, "Hey, we estimate that your upcoming service is going to be this amount, so prepare yourself." Well, it's an emergency visit, so you don't know. It's on the fly. And what are you
Right,
going to say? I don't want to do it. You're in
right.
pain, so you got to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it's out of control. It's
It
out of
is.
control.
It is. And we are, this is a community of artists. And so I say this a lot. I really believe it. It's a vulnerable population of women, LGBTQ men, and I will do my damnedest to make sure that all of you are making a good living, you are respected, you are have a good living wage and that you are being treated well. I mean, that is my work. That is what I care about. I want that to be I know I can't solve the world's problems, but if I my thought is h- if I can move the needle like
Yeah,
20% in my career, I will have
yeah,
done something good. So
yeah,
that is, I try to work on the big problems that are industry wide that I could help if I can move it here, over here a little bit, and over here a little bit, and then just kind of, squeeze it in,
hmm
making it better for us all. And it's a very lofty goal, but I
It's
think it's
just
doable.
yeah, it is. But and at the same time, it's not. I mean, I just think that designers as a whole need to be considered more. Like I just think they need to be. I think people need to, and not so much John and Joan Q Public, because I think the the public, like the everyday person, has definitely come around to, oh, I'm going to hire a designer. I mean, I've seen it more and more in social media. Oh, if I could hire a designer, I would, or I'm thinking about hiring a designer. How do I go about it? But I think like even when we talk about like builders and contractors and developers, like I think designers need to be considered more. It's so funny how I was talking with a really good friend of mine, and she's going to be working on a project, and it's a custom build. She doesn't have anything to do with the plans, and it's like over 6,000 square feet. But the laundry room is a closet. And I mean, I thought she was joking. I thought, oh, it can't be a closet. No, it's literally, it's like 5 or 6 bedrooms. They're all en suite. It's huge. The place is huge. It's 4 car garage. But the laundry room is literally a closet. You open it up, and there's the washer, and then there's the dryer, and then there's going to be a shelf. And it's like shoved in the hallway upstairs somewhere. 6 bedrooms, over 6,000 square feet, and a closet for like who's doing like I just thinking like who's thinking about these things when there's and then there's no coat closet when you walk in the door. So it's like those things where I think people aren't really thinking about like how does the client live? How does the end user live? Consider the designer because that's all we think about. Like
It
that's
is. It
all we
it
ever think
truly
about.
is, and
You
there's
know what I
so
mean?
many builders who have their in-home, and I don't mean this to pick on them because I know they're trying, but they bring in a person who's a designer, and usually they're, fairly young, and they're directed. I know of a designer who quit working for a builder because it started out great, and then over time, they wanted to make cuts so they make more profit, and some of the cuts were really like, this is not good design. Like, this is not good design. We're sacrificing good design to appease you, because you can make a cut here and there on the process of building. Sometimes there'll be, and this in those, McMansion-y houses that had those big great rooms where the kitchen, and then there would be a big island, and then there would be a dining room space, and then there's a living room space all in one big room. And they're not really thinking about how everything fits. They're not thinking
No.
like, okay, is there really enough room to go around the bench, the bar stools, and then have a table where people could actually pull out their chairs, and then have a sofa that has a decent viewing, distance from a television? Like,
Yep.
the space planning of it all, and the designer would come in there and be like, this is not doable. You can't do this. This isn't going to work
Nope.
with the furniture space. And it's crazy how many multi-million dollar homes get built that way because when you don't have any furniture in it, it looks fine. It looks
Yep.
like, oh, this is a great big space. There'd be plenty. Well, no, there isn't.
Exactly.
Once you've got chairs pulled out, once you've got a rug there, once you've got all the pieces there,
Exactly.
it's not.
Exactly.
And the designer thinks
Not
that way.
even that. It's almost like it's exactly what you said. It's one thing to have the furniture in there, right? Like so, it's one thing for me to have the furniture in there and have a stylist and a photographer there, and they're photographing it for my portfolio. And then it's another thing to have the furniture in there, and you're at you and your significant other are at work, and the kids are at school. And then it's another thing to have the furniture in there, and everybody's home on the weekend. And it's another thing to have the furniture in there, and you're having a great big family gathering. And so we are considering all of those things, like because the room should work, it should work through all of that. Like you
Well,
shouldn't
one
have to
of the
make
designers
concessions,
we worked with, and Shannon Gem. So one of the things she said on our podcast this year that I really loved was that everything has to go through her designer filter. So it's all of those things. Plus, it's, are the material, I have a bigger responsibility when I'm buying a sofa that I buy from someone who isn't using slave labor or isn't, the materials are quality so that it's not the product isn't going into marketing dollars, but into actual quality of the product. I have a responsibility to the style of the home and the architecture. There's so many designer filters that you're bringing it through. You might have, let's just say, and then there's also like future proofing this space so that you're making the most current decision. Like, is this investment going to be good for your client? Is what they want a trending piece that is going to be out of date and date this home quickly. So you're
hmm
thinking about so many layers when you're making a decision. There's like checks and balances happening but behind every decision. Sometimes with experience, sometimes those checks and balances can happen more quickly than when you're less experienced. But there's a number of different yes, no,
Yeah.
this before something as simple as what tile are we going to pick? What floor are we going to pick? How many decisions, are you going to make in any particular space? And how many filters does that decision have to go through before you can get to the right decision for your client? And that's how a designer boils it down, 4,000 decisions into 3. And when they brought you
Yeah,
those 3, you know, inevitably you're going to say, well, what about something else? I would love to see other options. I'm telling you, go with one of the 3 options. Please, number 1, if you want to be a good client.
exactly.
99, I will just tell you a statistic that I believe to be accurate within our community is, and I've talked to a lot of designers about this, but more than 90% of clients who choose other directions and other products after the designer has given them a choice of 2 or 3, end up coming back and picking from those original picks, and have now wasted even more money and time because now the
More, yeah,
designer's gone back
exactly.
out, they've
Yep,
picked other new things, everything else has trickles down too. Now that new tile doesn't work with this other thing that we were planning, so it can affect a million other choices. But I'm telling you, 80% of the time, more than 90% of the time, they come back to the original choice after they've explored all of these other options anyway. So
yep.
if you want to save yourself some headaches and some money as a design client, go with one of the decisions that the designer picked because they did run it through this filter that you are unaware of
Yep.
that is happening. And that a lot of
And we
that,
looked
yeah,
at tons of stuff. You don't, I mean, you don't realize it, but we really have. Like we've gone through, you're seeing 3, but we've probably gone through 300,
yes,
and
yeah.
so it's
And
not
there are
that
probably
we only picked
4,000 out there. They've already weeded
exactly
down based on, is
up to
this manufacturer
projects or what
reputable?
exactly.
Is
Yep, yep,
the quality of the product good? Is this somebody that, has an issue with like returns on the, or bad manufacturing? Maybe its quality is good sometimes, but it's not repeatable. So
exactly.
is the shipping okay? Like, is their customer service okay? Like all of those factors.
Yep,
Do I think that the company itself is financially stable so that I can trust them? There's
yeah,
numerous filters that design, and I'm not saying designers don't make mistakes. Honestly, they can't know everything about an internal company's working. They could have just let go their best person in a certain department, and that's changed everything. But they do their best to make it themselves very, very knowledgeable about everybody they do business with. So that, yeah, you're right. It's like even those 300, that's only 300 because you've already done work to eliminate probably 4,000.
exactly. It's so true. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't realize there's a minimum, I think, of at least 400 different questions that are a part of any given project per room. Like, every room, somebody was like, yeah, I don't think it will take that long to do a living room. I'm like, I know you don't, but there are so many questions that come along with designing a space. You have no idea. You just have no idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people don't recognize it. And I think that, and I think there are a lot of really great people out there with really good taste, and they could put together a room and they think it's good enough. And I understand that. I mean, it's your home. You can do what you want with your own space, and you don't necessarily have to hire an interior designer. But I will tell you, even people I've talked to that have hired designers and not done the like accessories package at the end, they've
Hmm.
gone over to their other friend's house that did do the full service design with reveal, and we're like, probably should have done that. We probably should have
Yep.
gone because you're not really seeing the full vision. You're not
Yep.
really
Nope.
seeing what it could have been if you just let your designer do it and do their work, and give you the all. And sometimes that is, don't you think sometimes that's like partially because the client, it's a budget thing most of the time. They are
Well,
like,
I think so. I think
this
so.
is expensive. And then they talk themselves like, I don't really need that. I could do without it. I don't really, you know, but and I always think like, how could we crack that nut with the designers? Because sometimes it is a case of fatigue. There's so many decisions before that we get to the end piece of finalizing the design. Could we phase some of that? Could we say 6 months after the design project, we come back and offer an accessories package, or a year and a half after, or a year after, say you know, I didn't really want to push you on this, but your exterior could be so much better, and would love to sit down and talk to you about it, the exterior. You have this beautiful pool, and I'd love to help you make that the entertaining place that it could be, you know?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think I've never thought about it from that standpoint. I think if there's opportunities to do other things, like if you see like adjoining spaces, or areas that sort of flow into or are going to be affected by the room that you're or space that you're designing, yeah, I think that's really smart to say, hey, this is going to be a lot. It's going to be taxing, and so mentally, emotionally, financially. So I think like in 6 to 9 months, let's set up a date for me to come back and we can talk about X, Y, and Z spaces because I really do think that they can be stellar, given when this is done. In terms of accessories, I just put it in the letter of agreement saying like this is a thing, like, and you need them, and
You do.
they're part of the overall vision. And like
I mean, this
I
is
always
where it
tell
adds
clients,
all
like,
the personality.
yeah, it makes or breaks the room. And I'd say to them, like, look, you called me because of whatever space on my website. So which one did you really like? And they might say, oh, I like the one from such and such project. Okay, great. Let's take a look at it. Now, imagine the space without that, and that. Do you think you would love it as much? And they're like, oh, I said, those are all the accessories. Like that's all the finishing touches. Like you got to understand that. And if you're telling me that you're really hesitant because the accessories is going to take you from K for the room to 60K, then maybe what you should have told me was that you wanted to spend only K on the room.
Mhm.
And then we could have tried to narrow things down to 40 and then done 10, from 40 to 50 on accessories or whatever.
Yeah. I think it'd be a smart move for designers to take their existing project portfolio pictures when you're getting towards the end. Why don't you put it into like Gemini, Google's Gemini? They have it as an app now. You can download it as an app and it has really good photo editing capabilities. So does
Mm,
ChatGPT. But I found Gemini's photo editing to be a little bit better. And you could just say, take out these things and you could list them. You could say, take out the
wow.
art, take out the accessories, and then you could show the client a few photos of your work when you get to that phase. Like part of your investment guide could have another little section for accessories and exteriors. And you could say, this is what it looks like without it or with it, side by side.
That's
Without
so
it, with it.
smart.
Which one do you want?
That's
Oh, because
so
people are so
smart.
visual, right? And so
They are
you
very
can
visual.
tell them, look at that photo without those things, but it's entirely different if they see it themselves. Like they see it without stuff sucked right out of there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's true.
I don't
It's
want
very,
that.
very true. Because honestly, and I had to realize this for myself. I had to have a conversation with myself. Like, you got to understand from their perspective. Honestly, for them, it's already a win because what they had before was, 20 times worse than what you've given them. So you've given them a new sofa, a new rug, they've gotten window treatments, they have all the basics. And so for them, it's like, this is good. This
Yeah,
is beautiful, right?
this is
And
better than what I had, and I'm so
better than
happy.
what I had. And
And
I'm so
honestly,
happy.
they might be in that. I mean, everyone has to recognize the fatigue of financial stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
when
Oh
you've been
yeah.
writing checks and you've been writing checks and you've been writing checks and whatever, paying payments, sometimes you're just hit. It's not even about that you don't have the money. It's like, I just feel like I'm just pouring money out of here. And so sometimes like layering that in, I mean, some people it's just like a straight budget and you can just work it in the initial conversation and that works. And I would encourage that all day long. But if you're finding resistance to some of this, which I know some designers struggle with it, phase it. Phase it, be like, you're
Yeah.
going to be fatigued at this time, so why don't we set up a meeting at this time and come back and do that later? And I always think that works for outdoor because no one wants outdoor included in the home build budget, or renovation budget. Do like 9 months later, like even a calendar invite to like set up another meeting with them 9 months after the project's over, and then pitch doing the exterior. Look,
Yeah.
I've had my eye on it. I knew it was beautiful. You have a beautiful space. You have this beautiful interior. What do you think about doing the exterior now? I mean, you've gotten some time to like, recover a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Now
yeah,
might be the
yeah.
time to look at those numbers, especially if you can plan it out so that it's like starting in like January or so when your slow period starts to happen, you can start to reach out to those clients where you know that they have exterior projects. I mean, you could do that right now. Look through your client roster. We just was on a call earlier this morning and some of the designers were like, what do you do when you're slow? And I was like, we get that question on IDC all the time. And that is when you work on systems and marketing. That is what you do when it's
Yep.
slow. That is what you
Yep.
need to do. And you
Yep.
need to start thinking and you start with your clients is like looking at your client spaces, who in there has a beautiful exterior that you didn't touch. Like
Yep.
we're all potential clients. It's so much easier to work with a past client than it is to gain a new client. So start there saying, really, really enjoyed your project and want to reach out and talk, and ask you how everything is. And, I've really been thinking about your exterior. I didn't want to pitch it as part of our project. I knew you had a great budget. You already were spending a lot of money and I didn't want to push more onto you, but it's such a beautiful space. Have you been giving it any thought? And if you have, let's meet. Let's have a drink or whatever,
Yeah.
chit chat about it. And you have all sorts of great experience. And it's another space that you could do for that client. And I know some designers are doing whole home and they don't touch that stuff and they don't need it. But for those who do, it's another way to add a little bit extra revenue to your next year by selling. And part of the idea that you were just talking about was we had a designer who wrote in and actually, no, it was Bethany Frankel. Remember Bethany Frankel had that had that whole, my house is, and she has a history of working with stagers, but she was like featured an AD and everybody who ever saw it was like, why is this house an AD? It's beige on beige. Looks like home
That's
goods.
a that's a whole and that is a whole other topic that we could
Yeah.
say for a whole other show another day. But yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she came
Yeah.
back and was like, "Well, I bought this house at 5, I sold it at 7, I bought this house at 3, I sold it at 7, at 6, or whatever." So, she was talking about all of the gains she had in real estate and that she doesn't buy or design like a normal person because it's all an investment. First of all, I disagree on 2 levels. I don't think that personality and design actually makes the outcome of the home be worth less. I think if it is designed with personality and it's universally attractive personality, then it's maybe even more valuable if it has a little bit more color to it.
Hmm.
And secondly, I do think it's a strong strategy for any designer because all of those homes and the net worth of those individuals, you're guessing that the price certainly in the last years has gone up. So you could take an Excel spreadsheet of all the addresses you've done, put in date of, starting the project and today, how much are they worth? Go to
Yeah.
whatever, how much are those houses worth today? Well, that's your net gain from the time you took on the project to now in the real estate offering. And you're part of that as the designer. Your abilities increase the value of that house. So, and that's unadvertised. I mean, that's not having sold the property. That's just estimated value. If it went on the market with the beautiful pictures of your work, it could be much more than that, depending on how the real estate broker, looks at it. But it's really, really kind of a smart idea in your investment guide to say, in my career, and you could give like even overarching numbers. I have increased the net worth of the homes that I've renovated by 25% or 30% or whatever. That could be a claim on your website. That could be a claim in your investment guide and your ROI, because that's the truth. Like you really are building equity in these people's
That's
homes.
true. Yeah, no,
You
that's
know,
true. That's
good
true.
design sells too. I mean, if you walk into a beautifully designed home, are you much more likely to buy it? Are you much more likely? And it's not just the value that client is getting while they live there, but it's
Yeah.
also when they sell the property. It's a huge equity boost to
No,
have
it's true.
thoughtfully
It's so
designed
true.
product. Yeah.
Where I lived before moving here, there were townhomes and they couldn't get, and they were relatively new construction. I mean, I was there on 9 years, right? So, and was the first owner of that, and they could not get over a certain hump in terms of dollar amount. And some of the decisions that I made during the construction process, right? I remember saying, nope, I want to do this. And I remember the people in the office saying, nobody else has done that in the master bedroom. That's going to be so cool because you're going to be the only townhouse and 300 and some townhomes that have this. So anyway, I remember putting it on the market. I think it sat on the market a day and a half. And not only did it go for the highest amount that had been sold for a townhome, but then there was like a bidding war, and I totally attribute that to the fact that it was designed well, honestly. And because I remember coming back at a certain time and I was early and the people were still in there with the realtor and there was like I would have like music playing and I would have like a candle lit. And I remember the wife saying, she's like, it's beautiful, it's so beautiful, but just the whole feeling, like the whole vibe is just, and she's like, I told my husband, do whatever you get me, because this lady was so particular. She's like, I told him, do whatever you have to do, get me that house. I've looked at like 10 in here and I want this one. Get me that house. So it's true. It makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. A
And I want you
huge
to
difference.
take that a little further, and I want you to think every time you think about, shaving hours, giving discounts, giving, a little leeway on the pricing because you want to help the client. Also remember, like, at the end of the day, when they sell that house and they get that little extra equity in their home because you've done this beautiful design, not little, by the way, lot of equity in the home because you've done this design, it's going to end up in their pocket, not yours. So
Yep.
you are building the equity in their home, and that's why you need to be compensated for it. And so sometimes, even if you don't want to publicize the numbers, I really encourage you to do this exercise because I think it will give you confidence inside yourself to recognize the value you bring to the projects. And then when you're being asked to cut, you can say, look, I've built millions of dollars of equity into my clients' homes. That's not going home with me. That's going home with them. Like,
It's the
I,
truth.
you
It's the
know,
truth. Yeah. It's
so
the
I,
truth. And
I
and
don't
we
want
don't think
you to think
about
that,
that.
yeah, you're taking money out of your own retirement income and putting it into theirs. If you're giving them, this wealthy person the discount on whatever, while you're the service worker, you're the person trying to put it together and you should make a profit. And I do know there are a lot of designers out there who struggled with pricing or priced too low or made sacrifices along the way because they didn't hold the line because they just wanted to please the customer. I just
And you
had
or you want to get the job, but
Yes, or
you think
or you make a
you're
little
desperate to get the
mistake, like
job.
you forgot to tell them the new price and it's higher than you thought, and so you take the cut. Like, every time we do all these little things, we are building equity in someone else's home, and we are taking the cut personally ourselves. And so we need
Yep.
to make sure, there are things you can own when you make a mistake, but then there are things you can, like, we're human beings and we should be able to just say, look, like, it's still going into your house, not mine. So even if I mess up a little bit, like some things, it's worth negotiating with the client and saying, I get that I didn't give you that pricing, or I forgot that it was going to take a little bit more hours, but that's what it took. And having that conversation up front that this sometimes happens too in the process, I'll do my best to mitigate that, but I'm still acting as an advocate for you.
For you, and that's I'm so glad you said that because that's one of the things that I say all the time. Like, hey, look, I'm on your side. I am your representative. I don't represent. Yeah, I have access to this brand and that brand and X, Y, and Z, but I don't represent anybody but you. And so at the end of the day, like my job is to represent your best interest. And so whatever it is that you want to do at the end, like I go to that Uber analogy all the time. It's your destination, right? I just know how to get there maybe in a better way, right? And so like I think that's the one thing clients have to remember. Like, and I remember my project manager saying like to a client, on the phone, she's like, all that we're doing, she's like, everything that we're doing, she's like, I know you're a little frustrated right now. She's like, but every single thing that we're doing, because this was in the beginning and we were saying like this is our process. Like we do this first and then we do this and then we do this. And no, we cannot. And she's like, but this is all for you. It's literally to support the greater good of your final outcome because we don't want to screw up your final outcome. It's not because we're trying to be self-serving and to sort of serve our own egos. This is literally so that we make sure that your final project is as great as it can be.
Right.
period, point
And
blank,
if you're
you know?
listening and you are not a designer or you just work in the design industry, I can't tell you. I talk to thousands of designers every day, every year, and there is no one that cares more. There is no one on your project that cares more than the interior designer that you get what you want. They really legitimately, it's part of the art is to care about it, like to really be invested emotionally in the work. So they go above and beyond. And a lot of times they go above and beyond without you even knowing. You don't even know that they did you
Oh
huge
my God.
favors
So
and
true.
bend over backwards because they just want you to have what you want, and they will do things that to help that end game happen. So, you've known me to be on the soapbox of like designers have purchased product for people, but it goes beyond that. They've pulled favors, they called resources, they massaged the price, they've shaved a little bit of money off of their own profit so that they could give you what you wanted. It's in numerous ways, and these are not millionaires who are sitting
No,
on their laurels, eating bonbons and shopping all day at luxury stores. These are people who are working really, really hard, who have families to support, who have real responsibilities, and they really care about the work that they do, and they care about it being good, and they have a million decisions to make for you, and they're trying to deliver you the results that you want. So as a result, they sacrifice to make that happen.
that's the truth.
And
That's
they
the
take it
God
home
honest
with
truth.
them. They take it home with if
Oh
you're
my
upset,
God.
they're upset. Like, it's the truth. I mean,
Yep.
it's internalized.
It is literally the truth. Like you hit the nail right on the head. It's so true. So,
Yeah,
so
it's
true.
it's such an emotional connection between a designer.
And we don't know how to turn it off.
Yeah, it's I don't know any designer who really, I mean, I think that we're all working toward it. We're all trying, like, how can we practice mindfulness so that we don't internalize some of this? And some of it, we do have to start separating ourselves from
Yeah.
the outcome a little bit. This is their
Yeah.
home. This is their investment. This is their project. And it's a practice to mindfully separate yourself and recognize that, when things have gone wrong, those things would have gone wrong despite you being in there or out of
No
there,
matter what,
no
exactly. Whether
matter
you were
what.
attached or not. I mean, I have a client right now, and they won't be very long, but they got really upset because of the lead time of the workroom. I mean, got really upset, and to the point where they don't want to, they don't want to pay me. And I'm like, I don't. I said to them, hey, look, I get it. That lead time, it is extremely long. I was taken aback. We can look at other workrooms, but I will say it is that time of year. Everybody's busy in terms of, the people who are producing product. And so, an 8 to 10, week lead time is probably what is happening right now with workrooms who are creating custom soft goods. Either way, I don't have any control over the workroom's lead time. I really don't.
No,
Um, this was an easy one for me. Like I didn't even take it on. I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with me. That is not, that's absolutely out of my control.
no,
So,
no,
and it was
but
just a great wake up
that's
call.
taken years for you to be able to do that, which
Oh
is
my God, a
we wanna,
long
like,
time.
shrink the years. I'd like to shrink the years it takes to make a good profit. I'd like to shrink the years it takes for designers to internalize some. I want them to separate themselves emotionally a little bit
Yep,
more, have a little bit
yep.
more mindfulness about that you're there to help, but you're not there to, you're not.
It's so funny you said that because before we got on today, I said to myself, what is it about the 10-year mark? Or, like, what is it? Because I keep hearing almost every designer say that, like,
I think
it's around that 10-year
10
mark is
years.
when they are all of a sudden the light bulb comes on and they're like, I'm just no longer available for this. Like, I'm just no longer here for like the cheap rates. I'm no longer here for taking on things that really don't belong to me. I'm gonna still do my best to really put myself out there for my client, but at the same time, I'm going to know my worth. I'm going to be compensated for it, and that's just how it's going to go. And it's weird because I feel like, for me, it's right around the 10-year mark, and I've heard a lot of other designers, and I'm like, how can we, just what you were just saying now, how can we like shrink that? Like, how can it
I would
not be
love to shrink that.
10 years? You know what I mean? To have to go
Well,
through this, because I would
I
hate somebody
think
else
that
to go through
it's a
this.
lot of it is education. We have to get these
Yes.
people through the education process
Yep.
of attending events and really, when you do attend and you take the time during a trade event to go to a panel, go to the panels that you think you'll actually get a benefit from and you'll learn something. Really look for moderators. I mean, I know I really make sure when I vet anybody who's going to be on the panel that they are going to give us the real information and that there won't be anybody on my panel who isn't prepared to give real answers and isn't going to just
Hmm.
like, it's not that, I want the failures. I don't just want the successes, you know?
That because that's what you learn from.
That's what we
That's
all
what you
learn from.
learn from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
am perfectly fine failing because I know I learn every time I fail.
Exactly.
And I don't think we all work really hard at unfortunately trying to be perfect too. I'd love to see
My
the
God,
need for
so true.
perfection to go away to some degree. You know, we have to embrace
Exactly.
imperfection to some degree. You know,
I think it has to be in a mentality of because we do design, or like we do are the managers of perfection. We sort of are like the curators of that. But I think we have to get into almost that showbiz mentality that okay, yeah, it does have to be perfect when you are putting it on stage, but backstage during rehearsal, like all those times, it doesn't. This is when you're learning. This is when you are trying to get to perfect. In order to get there, you've got to allow yourself to make mistakes. You've got to allow yourself to learn. You got to be open about what you're struggling with because you can't get to show day and have it be perfect if you don't say, hey, you know what? I really don't know the difference between markup and margin, or I really don't know. I really don't have a good receiver. I really don't know why I should not do things piecemeal and
and there
have them
are no
delivered
dumb
one by one.
questions in that world. Like,
No, my
honestly,
God, none.
you should never feel, at least through interior design community, that there are dumb questions. Like, I really don't like it when there are any comments like that, but it's very rare in our community, but once in a while we get someone who's like, "Oh, these questions." And I'm like,
Nope. I never feel that way. I never knew what do you know what a workroom was? I had no clue what a workroom was when I first started. I'm like, "What's up?" And I was so scared to ask, and then one of the designers I asked was like, "Oh," and that made me feel so much better. Like I could ask anything. She said, "Oh, it's just a place that it's going to make your like window treatments and your pillows, and that's going to be your work. That's the workroom that we talk about most often that you'll hear." And I was like, "Oh," but didn't know, and
"Yeah,
was having these conversations with people and listening to them to say workroom this and workroom that, and just was not aware and felt like, "Oh, that's a dumb question," but I asked it anyway. You know?
yeah." I mean, I think it's important to ask those questions. It's important, and I'll tell you, I didn't know what a show house was when I first started. I was like, "What's a show house?" I don't know.
Me, you
I
know
thought it
what?
was like a
Honestly,
model
I didn't.
home or something.
You know what?
I
I didn't
turned
either.
down
Honestly.
Kips Bay to have my wallpaper in Kips Bay because I didn't know. I thought they asked me if I could give them free wallpaper and come and install it. And I was
You
like,
were like, I'm not doing that.
I can't do that.
You're selling these houses. You can't pay
Right?
me for
Yeah.
wall,
You want me to give you free wallpaper for like a model home?
and you're gonna sell them at like $1.5 million. No, I'm not doing that. No, I get it.
Yeah. I was like,
I
no
get it.
way.
I totally get it. I
Yeah.
totally, totally get it.
But there
I
are
was
s
the same
and
way.
there are more. Like, I know that a lot of designers who come out of design school don't know how to, and even if you haven't done the design school, it's such a challenge to figure out product and pricing and marketing and how to do this and how to do that and how to stand out and how you handle social media. To own a business is not easy. It's just not
No,
easy. Or even to work for a business is not easy because you're still managing the business. It's part of the business when you work for a business. So this is a tough business. This is a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of decisions. There's a lot of financial risk and reward for certain people. It's a lot to manage. There's a lot to manage. And I love that we're working towards real, defined answers that will, and I share information we share information everywhere, interior design community, on our Instagram, on our website, and this podcast. All of it is about,
and
helping you.
that's why it's important to visit all of the things like the podcast, and shameless plug, but the podcast and the social media channels, because the thing is, right, 95, from my perspective, 95% of the time, 98% of the time, there is no definitive answer, right? In terms of like, this is the way you should always do margin and markup. No, because maybe you have a hybrid pricing model, or this is the brand that you should always go to for X, Y, and Z. No, but the nice thing is you'll find between the podcast and the social media channels that several people have weighed in, several people have given their perspective, and maybe one of those really works for you. And that's what I love. You know what I mean? I've said this. I've been on late at night, like perusing the Facebook page and like, oh, they said to do this. Oh, maybe I'll try that, and then maybe I'll try this, and then
Yeah.
maybe I'll try this. You know,
It's not a one size fits all. You have every market is very we also forget how big the world is and how there are lots of designers from all over the world part of IDC. And even if we're talking just US, the way the clients are and how they respond to pricing in New York is different than the way they respond to pricing in Miami. The markets are different. And
heck, it's different how
we're a
they
massive
respond in
country
Philly. You know,
with massively different cultures. I
yeah,
think it's really neat if we, look at this as like, of course there are going to be differences instead of being like, there should be a universal. The reason there aren't is because we're such a massive country. We could be separate little countries, several separate little countries to make up the United States. And because of that, there's lots of different cultures and there's lots of different
exactly.
models because that's what's in the area. That's what's thrived in the area. And that's what clients there are used to. So
Yep, yep.
gonna have to it's not a one size fits all, and you're gonna have to go with the flow and figure it out and try and fail and like, adjust as you see fit.
And who knows? Because even if you are, you get your routine down and you sort of say, this is okay, this is my operation. This is how I'm going to do this, 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 and this. It may be that you get a project where you're like, oh, you know what? I actually have to change something. I have to tweak how I do X, Y, and Z. So I'm sort of glad that I tried that, that, and that, because maybe what I tried before is going to work better for this project. And I want to take this project and I want to do that because that will still yield me a great return. I'll make a profit and I'll have a great project. But in order to do it, I got to do it that way.
It's
So
all
I
of
think it's
that's part
important.
of it. That's 100% part of it too, Niall. If I told you, I am 30% of your net budget, and for design and furnishings, the same thing could be I'm also, $250 an hour. The same, it could also equate to the same number. It also could
Yeah.
equate that I am going to be a flat fee of X. Those are three
Yep.
ways to tell you the exact same
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
And sometimes that
Knowing
client wants one of the three ways. That's it,
exactly. That's right. And if
like
they hear it the other two ways, they're out the door.
they're out the
They're
door. And it's
out
a
the
little bit of
door.
knowing which one is what they wanna hear, and figuring out, do they like that versus this? And a lot of designers adjust their model. Doesn't mean they really are trying to make they're usually trying to make the same margin, but they're adjusting it as they see fit based on what they're vibing with the client. Like, they're like, "This client wants it this way." And they might for certain protections, like, they might like a flat fee number because that's how their budget works. They might like hourly because they like to track how many hours this is going to take, and you're giving them an hourly. That's how their brain works. We all have that in our lives. Like, we all have different ways that we like to work, and so it's smart when a designer kind of comes out at that different ways. There's lots of ways to word the same thing. You know, I love it. I love
Exactly.
it. Well, I just want to say thank you, Niall. This has been so
Thank
great.
you.
And I so enjoy working with you, and I can't wait to work with you
Likewise.
more because I get to announce that Niall Johnson is our Style Squad ambassador for
Woohoo!
Design Edge. Yay! And so we'll have a greater role in Design Edge as we do our conference there. And
I'm excited.
so another new role for Niall. And
Super
it's going to be a
excited.
big year for us for our trade show and for our podcast going into our third season.
Yay. I'm
Happy
excited.
holidays, everyone, and we will
Happy
see you next.
holidays. Bye.
Bye.